Hello again, and welcome to Law and Society, where
legal and social issues come together.
with Andrew Stevenson, criminal defense attorney in Lancaster, on the job for 20 years?
20 plus years, yes.
Yes. And this is your outreach. This is a show that you said, I've always wanted to educate people. And I know you do live presentations to a lot of the student groups around, and parents in the area, to just educate them on what the law is and what their kids are into, or what they could be into.
Exactly. It's my effort to educate the parents as well as the kids what the law is, in hopes that they can avoid mistakes that can ruin their future.
Well, we're in prom and graduation season right now, and so I'm sure there are mistakes aplenty happening, unfortunately.
Yes.
But, well, today we're going to talk about a topic that a lot of parents are going to find a little squeamish, I think.
Yes.
And it is the topic of sexting and using inappropriate things on phones and other
digital
devices.
media.
Digital media.
Yeah.
So let's start with just basic. I have a feeling parents are going to be squeamish because they just have no clue this is going on.
Well, they understand it's going on. They may not think it's their son or daughter who's doing it. The prevalence rates are between 30 and 40% of females under the age of 15 will have sent a picture
Of themselves.
Yeah.
So sexting, we think of it as the boys instigating it. Send me a picture, but
it goes both ways.
Does it really?
It really does go both ways. In my practice, I've seen both situations. It's the old "you show me yours, I'll show you mine" that used to happen in the barn.
Well,
now happens over the phone, but it creates a digital evidence.
Playing doctor.
Yes.
We used to have that was I won't call it innocent, but
right. Yeah, that's what it was. Technically, most people define it as electronically sending or sharing a sexually explicit image or text.
Now let's define this, though, because there's illegal sexting, and then there is, if you're an adult, if you're two consenting adults,
if you're over 18 years old, it's perfectly legal to send an image of yourself to another consenting adult.
Even though you're using a wireless kind of form of communication.
Doesn't matter how you do it. You can get pictures taken. You can use your phone. You can use a video camera. It doesn't make a difference.
All right, as long as it's one-to-one, as long as it's not being
consensual.
shared publicly as well, right?
There's privacy issues at that point.
Like if a woman sends a man a picture, something risque.
Right.
And then he posts it to some social media. That's not legal, though.
Well, it depends.
Okay.
There are states that have enacted what are called revenge porn laws, which specifically prohibit that and make that illegal. Those that don't have those laws, generally it would be enforceable under an idea of a privacy, a civil action.
Yeah.
Which is what happened. But the confusing part is that the age of consent for sex in Ohio is 16 years old.
Yeah, and that confuses some people as well. So we have 18, 16, and below 16.
Correct.
There's and in Ohio, as I understand it, as you've kind of explained it to me off the air, we're pretty strict. I mean, there's some strict felony laws here, right?
Very strict. As I said, the age of consent is 16, but the problem is that the child pornography laws, which were enacted in 1986 in Ohio, basically prohibit the creation, publishing, sharing, possession, distribution of any explicit material involving a minor, which is defined as anyone under 18.
18. So that 16 to 18.
It's legal to have sex at 17, but you can't take a photograph or share a naked photograph of someone who's 17 years old.
Got it.
Now, most people are alarmed when they learn what the potential consequences are for this behavior. There are two categories. If you create or publish or share or distribute what is deemed to be explicit child nudity in the picture form, then that is a second-degree felony. If committed by an 18-year-old adult, you face up to 8 years in prison. If a juvenile, you can be incarcerated up to you're 21 years old.
Wow. Now, so how do you tell the difference? I'm not looking at these pictures. It's not like but if you're 17 or 18, how can you really tell if you're looking at a picture?
Well, normally it's because law enforcement has a complaint.
Okay.
A mother, a parent
Gotcha.
has said, I found these pictures on my son or daughter, my daughter's phone. Typically, they call law enforcement and said she sent them to her boyfriend, who then sent it to the football team or shared it with his friends or just has it on his phone.
So we're talking felonies here that can can really mess you up if you're
serious felonies. Yeah. Now, and it's not just the felony aspect that's the problem or the real risk. It is that they also carry mandatory sex offender registration.
So if someone were to send you a photograph of an underage person,
if you're 17 and your 16-year-old girlfriend sends you a photograph of herself, which is deemed to be explicit, sexually explicit, and you have that, mere possession itself is a felony, and you could potentially receive 15 years on a sex offender registration list.
And there's some words in there that you say sexually explicit. I mean, it goes to me back to what is obscenity.
Correct.
The Supreme Court has, even kind of stumbled on this, I think, haven't they? What is the definition of explicit, obscene? Does some of that eye of the beholder, or are there hard and fast rules that apply to that?
Well, the revised code, the laws in Ohio, define what is obscene material.
Okay.
And one of the key elements is what it says is it's a dominant appeal to prurient interest. Which is generally come to mean sexual or arousal, appealing to those types of things. For a long time, it's been considered to be a jury issue in a trial. Some famous cases involving the sale of Playboy magazine, Penthouse magazine, were those obscene? Were those pornography?
Or were they art? Or were they art?
Yeah. And they were left up to juries to decide.
Yeah. I think the 1957 Playboy with Marilyn Monroe would be considered art at this point. Yes. I really do, but who knows? So these are the kind of things that and we're in the age of the internet where there are no like boundary lines, to where your signals are going either. Correct. So you could be getting things from across state lines from really anywhere.
You could.
So jurisdictions
vary. There was an effort beginning in about 2011 in some states to try to address this issue involving juveniles in particular. They realized that adolescents, juveniles, teenagers are hormonally challenged. They are struggling with their own sexual understanding, and this is a thing that's going on, and they thought it was wrong to punish at such a severe rate. And so 20 states to date have modified sexting laws. Some of them make it a misdemeanor as opposed to a felony and a non-sex offender registration. Some states 10 make it more of a fine and take a class. Ohio is not one of those states.
And that's what parents in Ohio need to understand, that if this happens to their kids underage, they could be looking at something as they could be a 25-year sex offender. They're on a registry that they're blackballed from a lot of things, like where they can live.
Yes, that's
there's a lot of things like that you don't think, oh, you're on a registry. No, there's way more to it than that.
There's way more to it than that.
Yeah.
But there are also some social issues that have come up in this area. And one of them is how do we balance free speech and freedom of expression with these. Laws involving children are generally deemed necessary to protect the child, to protect children from themselves, and to prevent them from harm. And so Ohio actually in 2011 attempted to pass a revision of the sexting bill.
Okay.
It was House Bill, I think, 132. It did not go very far. It got kind of canned in committee pretty quickly, in part by prosecutors and part by child activist groups. But the issue becomes, at what point are we protecting the child, and at what point are we harming the child? If our concern is to protect teenagers from themselves, but yet we wind up prosecuting them and putting them on a sex offender registration, are we really doing more harm or not? There was a famous case out of Pennsylvania which involved 3 girls, 2 of which sent pictures of themselves in opaque bras, and one was bare-breasted. The local prosecutor in that case wanted to threaten to charge all 3 of them under their pandering or child pornography laws.
Now, these are 3 underage girls?
These were 17-year-old girls.
17-year-old girls who sent these photographs to boys?
To boys.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And consensually. They weren't threatened. They did it voluntarily.
Okay.
And they basically bound together and went to federal court and asked for a restraining order to prohibit the prosecutor from filing charges against them.
Okay.
On the grounds that they were exercising their First Amendment right to expression.
Okay.
And the state in that case, the prosecutor said, well, these laws exist to protect the girls, the children. and we have to enforce them. And the judge basically said that if your goal is to protect the children, why then are you threatening them with criminal charges that are going to cause them more harm? He granted the restraining order.
So if this girl was in an art class,
Yes.
nude from the waist up, and there were artists painting this, I mean,
there is a bona fide exception for art, education, and medical.
Yeah.
For example, medical books may have drawings or
Absolutely.
depictions of genitalia and things along those lines.
That's my point, though, is that the same photograph or the same instance in a different scenario
Correct.
would bring about a different legal kind of definition.
And that's where the lines get blurred between law and society.
So exactly. So in this Pennsylvania case, these 3 girls won their temporary restraining order,
and they were not charged.
and they turned 18 and all went away.
Moved on.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing, maturity wise. One day I'm a child, and the next day I'm an adult, and I've always had a problem with that definition of when they turn 18, they're automatically just an adult. I know that's the law, and you have to have a number.
You have to have a line somewhere.
I know.
And
Well, we're running out of time for this particular segment. We've got about a minute left, and this is a great topic. And when we come back, I want to talk about some of the misuse. Now, we've talked about what kids are doing. Let's talk about what the scammers are doing.
We'll be glad to talk about
because this is where it gets really interesting. And you've personally had just recently cases of this, right?
Yes.
Again, we're talking about sexting and what your kids may or may not be doing, and the age of consent in Ohio is 16. Now, is that different in other states? If you look at Kentucky or West Virginia,
16 is one of the more popular. Some states use 18. Some do have lower, such as 15.
See, I would think. I mean, again, if the age of adulthood is 18, why not just make it 18? That. What do I know?
You're fighting biology, Mark.
And I'm old and I don't remember all that. It's just a distant memory to me. Although I will say this, there were certain magazines under my mattress that my mom probably knew about and never said anything.
Right.
We think our parents are so dumb.
No, sometimes they know more than they say.
Sometimes not. This is Law and Society. Andrew Stevenson, attorney at law, who specializes in criminal defense. If you find yourself in a situation like this, give Andrew a call. We'll be back in a few minutes.